All right, everybody, we're live. There is so much to talk about, so much going on right now. We want to hit Trump's whole imperialism kick, which is terrifying, but even more terrifying is ICE. So let's jump off with the Western Hemisphere because America first. So I put this map up. I guess this is what the plan is. And I want to play a quick video because just to go back in time here.
Back dated to the Monroe Doctrines. And the Monroe Doctrine is a big deal, but we've superseded it by a lot, by a real lot. They now call it the Donroe Document. I don't know. It's Monroe Doctrine. We sort of forgot about it. It was very important, but we forgot about it. We don't forget about it anymore. Under our new national security strategy, American dominance in the Western Hemisphere will never be questioned again. Won't happen.
So I was thinking about this, and I think I don't know who's really behind this. I know, like the whole Western Hemisphere crap, because it's not just Trump. But the thing is, if you look at China, and I'm not saying I'm loving what they've done, but if you look at China, Trump went in and bombed Venezuela. He's talking about taking Cuba. He made some remark about Mexico. Then we have Greenland. If you look at what China has done, they've gone into Africa over time and they've made investments in regions. It is an exchange for rare earth minerals. Whereas Trump is like, oh, we're going to take Greenland. We're either going to take it by force or we're going to buy it, whichever, with our tax dollars. He hasn't talked about getting donations from big corporations, but I think it's the same kind of thing. He's going to these different countries because I don't know that Venezuela is really about oil. I think part of it's oil, but they also have rare earth minerals. Greenland has rare earth minerals. And I think that's what he's doing. And it's like a bull in a china shop. But at least China, the way they have done it is they've gone in and made investments in countries. We're going to build your infrastructure. We're going to, in exchange for your whatever, sapphires, whatever. And also, I do travel to China in Guangzhou. And I don't know if this is going on other places in China, but in Guangzhou, there's an African community there, actually. And they're not terrorizing them from what I saw. So what are y'all thinking?
I would like to just say that I agree with everything you've said. I think that a lot of what they do is obviously posturing for their people, like their cult members, right? Like their brand is this sort of aggressive bullying, and it looks absurd to reasonable people. But I think that they really want to look strong. And this is the way that they think that people that follow them will perceive that as being strong. But obviously it's always a grift, right? It's always about something, rare earth minerals. Oil, I think, is just something that their people understand, right? Like oil is something that has always been talked about and discussed in terms of acquisition. So they just understand that. But this, to me, there's clearly someone behind the scenes controlling him. And I don't know, when this image came up from the the State Department, which, by the way, everybody check your follows on Twitter, because I thought when we did those force follows, I had stopped following all of these agencies, but I was following the Department of War. I was following the State Department. I was following Homeland Security, all of these. I'm like, what the hell? So just as a side note, maybe just go check your follows, make sure you're not following any of them. I mean, unless you actively want to follow them. I don't want my name associated with it, but anyway, this is, to me, their brand, and it's not effective and the rest of the world doesn't respond, but their people do.
And y'all saw this post from him where he's like, I'm the acting president of Venezuela. And then this is so embarrassing. So I guess about a week ago, 5 days ago, the opposition leader, Maria Machado, I guess was offering to give back her Nobel Peace Prize and they would give it to Trump. And then today, she actually gives him her prize. Now, here's the thing. The Nobel Prize Committee or whatever they're called, they said there is no transferring the actual, the honor.
Right.
You could sell, kind of like in the Olympics, you could sell your gold medal, but it doesn't mean that
you never won.
Yeah. So this is
there's a lot of comments online right now of people saying who has their who they've given their Nobel Prize to. There's a lot of people. It's amusing, I mean, and depressing, but
it's sad. And here's the thing. She caved to him. I think once Trump doesn't see you as strong, he sees you as weak. Like there's no in between, and he's going to roll her over. But
I wonder, is this just? I don't know enough about her, like full disclosure, but I wonder with some of these people, is this a blackmailing thing? Like, do we have dirt on these people? Is that what's happening? Because some people who appear smart are caving in ways that don't make sense. And it just makes me wonder, like, what's going on? Like, what's in it for her? Why is she attaching herself when the rest of the world sees that even if he has temporary power, it's not going to be long-standing? A, because he's dying. He's actively dying, and we see that. But B, because he does not have the support of the people. It's very evident. And the rest of the world isn't supporting him. So why attach yourself to someone who is so clearly on a sinking ship? I don't understand that. Because he's already, especially after he's already said, I don't think she's going to be able to lead. Like you said, he's already perceived her as weak or whatever, and he's definitely not going to give her anything. At least publicly, he's not. So what's the reason for this? Why? I don't understand.
I don't know. I think she'd been better off giving it to him in the first place because whatever she was going to do. Because I think now he was like, I'm not on board with her. He supported the vice president, and didn't he say something like, if she doesn't do what we want, it's going to be worse than.
That's what he said about Delcy Rodriguez.
Yeah,
the vice president, who's now the acting president. Yeah,
but everyone was kind of surprised that he didn't support the opposition leader. He didn't support Maria Machado.
Yeah, why take out the president and then leave the vice president who's loyal to that
same regime? The same regime.
Yeah.
So with Greenland, this poll was what day was it? It was today, or it published today. And 75% of Americans oppose U.S. attempting to take control of Greenland. So this is incredibly unpopular.
It's not 100. I'm 95.
Well, the 25% are probably MAGA. Like they'll go with it.
Yeah.
So that's kind of nuts. But they do not care. Now, this also from the Wall Street Journal. If Trump employs the U.S. military to seize Greenland, it will mean the end of NATO. The decision would rebrand the U.S. as an imperialist power, indifferent to the sovereignty of other nations, which he doesn't give a fuck about NATO. We already know that. He's been talking about that for years, even before he is president for a second term. But then we have other countries lining up. France says it will join Germany and defend Greenland. So what's happening here?
Of all the people that are sending troops so far? So Germany and France and Sweden and Norway and Netherlands and UK and Finland and Canada. That's a lot.
So basically NATO.
Right?
All of NATO. So this is so hopefully, I don't know, like they're big talkers. They like to seem strong, but Trump also says what he's going to do. So it's just, I don't, it can go either way.
That's the problem, is that you kind of have to watch what he says regularly, because he and his party obviously are willing to tell you everything. We know that. We saw that in a book they published, which was their literal evil villainous plan. Here you go. Project 2025, all the things we were going to do to take down America. So, but then there's other times where he obviously acts ridiculous, and then we don't ever hear anything about it, or then it changes. So I guess if it's just like you continue, like for instance, maybe we shouldn't have election, that stuff. That's something we've heard before. That and the Insurrection Act are two things that he's alluded to before. They're in Project 2025. I think that fits. The Greenland thing, I don't know if that's just like let's just throw something out there and see if it sticks. Like maybe we can bully people into giving us their country. Like maybe it's one of those things, or maybe it's just a distraction. But in either case, I think just watching what he says and does with this is important, because he does tend to repeat his plans. And then sometimes he's not really good at obviously policing his outbursts. So sometimes he gives a little bit away that way.
He's been obsessed with Greenland since his first term. It is actually,
it's 75%, 80% indigenous. So 85% indigenous. It makes sense that he would think he could just take it over.
He probably didn't even know Denmark, basically had control of
I'm sure.
Greenland. He probably thought, Greenland is an island and I've got this,
I'm sure you're right. 100%. That has to be the case.
Yeah. I mean, just like he really didn't know what the Insurrection Act was. But anyhow.
I'm sure he didn't know initially people were living there. He probably thought it was like an unpopulated place that he could just take. And then when he realized that it was mostly indigenous peoples, he's like, oh, cool, great. Like, that's even better. Because bullies like him love that.
And when he was asked, he said, I see a real estate deal, an excellent real estate deal. And now he's saying, we're going to get it. And it's either going to be the easy way or the hard way. He is truly deranged. And Europe has taken him quite seriously.
Yes.
And they wouldn't if they thought it was just a babbling of an old man. No, they're taking this quite seriously.
I think Venezuela really changed things right now. I just think that regardless of what was discussed ahead of time, whatever, the rest of the world woke up to America bombing a sovereign nation and kidnapping their leader. And however you want to try to make that sound for your agenda and policy, it's still jarring to the rest of the world. And so upon seeing that, I am sure when he starts, flirting with the idea of trying to take over Greenland, everybody says, like, now we have to take them seriously because they don't have any problems just airdropping soldiers into, sovereign nations.
Yeah,
just that I don't understand. I still, like, you went back to that image. I'm never gonna understand. He has to have dirt on her. There's just no other way, because he's already not given her that position of authority. Like, I thought it was like, oh, she's cozying up to him so that she can be the leader of Venezuela. And then he didn't. And I just think Greenland won't give him that same deference. Like, they won't give him that kind of respect, and that makes him mad too. Do you know what I mean? Like, he really doesn't like it when people don't legitimize his power. And I think everybody sort of laughed at him initially when he was like, I'm going to take Greenland. And I think that bothered his ego in a way that the Venezuela, opposition leader didn't. Like, she obviously fluffed him up. Greenland didn't. And neither did anybody else involving.
Did you see the Danish parliament just laughing hysterically? And then they shared that on social media. I think they probably planned that.
But I think the thing is, we don't take him seriously a lot of the times because it's so outrageous. And then, okay, wait, this seems kind of serious, and they're having meetings and they keep saying it. And it's like, I think this is real. I think they're going to try some shit.
I agree that they are testing the boundaries in the comment section.
What I don't get is MAGA's response. Like, y'all were America first. Trump was America first. Just like Casey, you and I were talking earlier, no new wars. and they're fine with this. They find ways to rationalize everything he does, even when the pendulum swings from one extreme to the other.
Chris brought his puppies because I told him to.
Oh,
I just was like, we just needed some good news, and his foster dog gave her. Sorry, I muted you because I thought your mic was echoing. But look how
So I only popped in just to show the puppies because I told Casey, but we just finished the birthing process like an hour ago, and
it's beautiful.
We have 8 puppies.
Yay! Gorgeous. I have a sable collie, but I had a try that looked very similar to your collie right there. Oh my gosh.
So
Bella, right? This is Bella.
Belle. We've had Belle
that was
for
my dog's original name. It was Belle also.
Oh my goodness. Belle for 3 weeks now? 4 weeks now. She's through Tri-State Collie Rescue. We did not know she was pregnant when we got her. We were assured she was not pregnant when we got her, and she was very pregnant.
Oh, goodness. Well, I have to say that having multiple collies all my life, collies are the best.
They are the best. I've had them my whole life. They are wonderful. I will never have anything else. But we now have 11 collies in our house right now. So 9 of which are up for adoption. So if you know anybody.
Thank you for coming and showing us the puppies. Like, we needed the happiness.
Yes. You're welcome. Yes. And I'll be back to talk about the hellscape next week.
Great.
Oh my God, look at those.
Okay, good night, everybody.
Hi, Chris.
Bye.
Oh my
Oh,
God.
that was too cute.
That was
I
a
needed
treat.
that. Yes,
That was a treat.
I messaged him earlier and I was like, I don't know if you're birthing yet. He sent me a picture and saying she's nesting. And so we knew it was going to happen pretty soon. And I was like, look, I don't know if you're busy birthing, but if you can, come on. And then please bring the puppies whenever you can show us them, because we really need that right now. So I'm glad. And she looked so good. And I was so happy because, it's like, that's a lot. That many puppies.
11.
And she looks like she's being a good mom too.
Like, it's sad that we have to go back to this. I was like, I'd rather just see them.
Yeah, that's
It
not
was
so
funny though when I saw her, I thought, oh, is Milena? Did she open up a separate account for her dog? I thought that was Milena's dog. Oh, so cute.
Back to Imperial Madness.
We can switch.
Need my
So do you guys
residency
want
house
to,
and my dog.
anybody have anything else to say about this? I mean, it seems to change.
Oh, yes. I would like to just say, I find we really do need to start talking about MAGA in terms of cults. And I know we've joked about that. People joke about that. But I really think it's important, because if you spend an entire campaign season convincing people that you are the, quote, peace president, that you're going to end all wars, that you want to put America, center it about America and not be involved in other things, and, also give states power and all of this. And then when you become president, you start bombing foreign nations, trying to take over other countries, occupying states with troops, and making all of this federal policy. You are not only just backtracking on your promises, you are going in the complete opposite direction. You are lying to your members of your party, and they're all just going along with it. So to me, that kind of loyalty, we are now entering into the cult mindset. And to address that, both now and later, we need to be looking at it from that perspective. This isn't like a normal, political candidate. This isn't a normal time. Obviously, these people are aggressively in favor of him. And when we are trying to push back, I just think that needs to be a part of the conversation. I think that the fact that he was promising all of these things and he's done exactly the opposite, and he has gotten there are some defectors, right? Like the moderate people, obviously moderate Republicans are like, I'm out. I think most of them had dipped before, but they definitely dipped this time. They're like, you're taking over Greenland, I'm going to have to hard pass. But there's still a bunch of people that are justifying it. And when you see them in the mental gymnastics they have to do to make those justifications, it's concerning. And I think that is also something that should be pushed more by the media and by the Democrats, because you don't see that. There's so much footage of him making promises on the campaign trail, and not a lot of it is floating back and saying, hey, sir, on this date, you said this, what's changed? And forcing them to have those conversations. Because like we saw tonight or today with Carolyn Levitt, when a reporter pushed her on the stats of people dying in ICE custody, and she just about damn near lost her mind because she can't handle it. They can't handle it. And we need to be pushing back with evidence like that, because there is evidence, and it's a lot of it's from rallies that he went to. So his members heard it and saw it, and we should just be reminding them of that. I think those are my thoughts on it.
Yeah, no, everything you said, I agree with. All right, let's talk about ICE and what's going on.
That was a good segue to ICE.
Which it was. Well, it's all related. It really is. It's all insane. So okay, so this is the most recent poll we have, and I can't see that small, but it's January 9th through the 12th, so it's recent. I still think this is a leading indicator. I think it's going to continue to dive, and I think this is thanks to the videos that locals are putting out, that we're sharing, people on social media. We're actually seeing the truth of what's happening, because obviously, but it's kind of weird. It almost is like they want us to see this. They are so aggressive and over the top. And I just want to say, y'all don't have to agree. People out there don't have to agree with me, but I really don't think this is any time for our electeds to be trying to both sides this, or trying to say that we can make ICE better, or we can ICE, when they're doing the right thing, they're fine. No, ICE needs to be gone. That is just bullshit narrative. This is immoral what they are doing to people. Whether you voted for, tough borders and all that, that's not what this is. That is definitely not what this is. So I'm just going off on this. I just don't want to, for me, this is like, I don't know about you guys, this is one of my number one issues, if not my number one issue right now, because this is affecting people that I care about. This is affecting all of us. Our stress levels are what, when we see this monstrosity unfold, the way they're gassing cars, that last night when they shot a suspect, let's just say that, a suspect in the leg, apparently, it looked like a war zone. And so I just think all of this is just, and they're targeting Minneapolis because I think they're after, Tim Walz. There's that bullshit there. They've been doing that. There's stuff that's still going on in Los Angeles. It's just, you're not hearing about it because, or like Milena, you mentioned Santa Ana and other places. We're focused on Minneapolis, as we should be, but it's still happening across the country. So I just wanted to, that is my
just yesterday in my neighborhood, there was ICE. I was talking to one of my neighbors. There was ICE in my neighborhood down the street from my house. It is terrifying. And it is also my number one issue, because very similar things have happened to my family, from my grandfather and father who were persecuted in Argentina by the government. And that government killed tens of thousands of people, 30,000 people disappeared. And we're seeing it here, and not enough people are seeing it. Not enough people are raising hell about this. And certainly the Democratic Party needs to get much tougher on this. I was really glad to see Tim Walz come out and explain to people that ICE is going door to door and demanding that people narc out their neighbors and tell them who are the immigrants, who are the people of color. And if you don't think that this is coming to a town near you, then think again. And no one is safe from this. Let me just tell you, in my dad's case, for my dad's family, the fascist government there, they took away every possession that they had, their homes, their businesses, everything. And all it takes is for maybe they don't like your profession. Maybe you're a teacher and they come after you. They see your social media account. Maybe your son picks on their kid's son, or vice versa. maybe one of their friends or they have a business that is a competitor with your business, and you will get disappeared. That's how fascists work. So no one is safe from this. It is incredibly scary. But the good news is that thousands of people are showing up, and we're seeing that in Minnesota. Like, I can't believe, I'm like, look at these neighbors. They are showing up. But it is a very scary thing. And I have heard a lot of Democrats say, don't say defund ICE. Don't say
I say abolish. They need
ICE.
to go.
I'm like,
I just put up a video, and I don't know if it made the cut or not, but I was like, stop saying defund. Find a better way to say you don't want to pay people to be modern day slave catchers. Like, there's a way to, because like the word defund has connotations that have been co-opted, but like find a way to just get rid of it entirely because it's illegal at this point. And somebody said, oh, you know who also went door to door the reason that Anne Frank was hiding in the attic was because people were going door to door. And I think that the idea that you can't drive your kids home from basketball practice without your baby being harmed because there's a gas flashbang thing in the was it the shrapnel that hit the van that the baby was in?
No, this is what happened. I really want to talk about this if it's okay. Can I talk about this right now? So this family was on their way home from basketball practice, and they got caught in between ICE and the protesters. ICE was demanding that they move, and they're like, we're trying to leave. And so I guess they weren't able to get out fast enough, and ICE threw canisters of tear gas and flashbangs at their car. According to the family, the car actually flew up in the air when these canisters exploded. And when they came down, all the airbags went off, and the car filled with tear gas. She had 6 kids in the car, 6 kids. And she was trying to pull them out one by one. She could barely breathe. Neighbors around the area were helping her to pull out her children from the car. And when she got the baby outside, the baby was unconscious, stopped breathing, foaming from the mouth. She was trying to give CPR to that baby, and she could barely breathe herself. And she said, the last person to get out of the car was my infant child. And when he came in, he was like lifeless. It was like foam or bubbles coming out of his mouth. I had to give him mouth to mouth and CPR. I couldn't even breathe myself. And all I remember is between every breath, I was saying, I'm going to give you every breath I have until you get yours back. This could happen to any family. This was not an immigrant family.
This is what I'm trying to explain. When you can't drive down the street without being caught by a stray bullet, because as I said last week, they shot 3 bullets at Renee Good and her car. And I don't know how many struck her, but those are extra bullets flying through a neighborhood in the middle of the day. All of this violence that's being perpetrated by the government, by the way, the people that are showing up to the protests aren't bringing weapons. They're coming with signs, and the government is coming with guns. And that's the problem. And so these other families are being caught in the crossfire. This is harming the entire nation because it's coming to every city, especially blue occupied cities. So like, for instance, Virginia has a governor. This weekend, we're going to have Abigail Spanberger being, what is the word? Why do I not? Inaugurated? No. What am I saying? Sworn in. Thanks.
Sworn in.
And so now Virginia, that has a supermajority with Democrats, now we're a threat, right? The state of Virginia is. So like, if your governor does something he doesn't like, he can start bringing all of these people to your state and knocking on your doors and sending people to your house. Because the problem is, even if you know the law and you know your rights, this government doesn't seem to give a shit about that. So they're not going to follow it. It doesn't matter how much you know about the Constitution and the law. If the president doesn't intend to follow it, we are all in trouble. So I think Milena's example of this is not the only example. It's the one we've heard about. And there's going to be more. And that's the problem.
And just part of the reason why they were out protesting was because ICE just shot another man.
Yeah.
Do you happen to have that video, Chris? Where
you know what? I had to leave and come back. So give me 1 second, and I will.
I was trying to find just the image of the actual of that,
because there was the 911 call that I kind of translated that I put in the chat for you.
Was it clear, Melania?
I was trying to load it before, and it was having trouble loading.
There was a lot of people. There were a lot of people talking at the same time, so I couldn't hear every single thing. But I can. There's a few parts. I got everything that was important. I said on there. Okay, this is what happened. The father was driving home, was probably profiled, and ICE had been following him for a half hour, trying to crash into their car.
Jeez.
Okay, so when he got home, ran into the apartment, and as he ran in, ICE shot him in the leg. At least that's what he says on the 911 call. Okay. So calling him a suspect, he's just another guy getting profiled by ICE. I mean, we don't know if he's really a suspect or just someone that they're targeting, which could be anyone. And personally, I wouldn't want to be called a suspect if it were me. And they did that to me, because they could do that to anyone. And so the family was in a panic. They had another small little child, looked like a baby, like 2, 3, 4 years old, somewhere in there. And they're telling the operator, they called probably 911. It was some emergency, someone an emergency call, that they were probably the police. And they were saying that he was shot in the leg, explaining the whole story. And the little child's like, what if they shoot again? And he's like, no, I'm not going to let that happen. And then the mother explains they're outside trying to get into the apartment. They're breaking into the car. And of course, ICE lied about it again, saying that they were like trying to get him with a shovel. Oh yeah, this one kills me.
I couldn't find the other one, so I put this one up because you're talking about them just taking people, and we're supposed to assume they're suspects. And then when we find out later that they're not, this is a good example of that, of where, it's like we're supposed to believe in this time that she's the one being defiant or the problem. And then later it turns out that obviously that wasn't the truth at all. So quite frankly,
these people are getting stuck in traffic, right?
Right.
And that could be me. I mean, I felt I connected to this so much, because she's like, I was just on my way to the hospital to an appointment, and she got stuck in traffic. And look at how they're carrying her. I can't.
They took her out of the car physically.
Yeah.
Out of the window.
And she said that she was disabled and that she was autistic and that she had a brain injury.
Yeah.
That one disturbed me a lot. Because
is that this one you're talking about?
Yes.
Yeah.
But see how everybody is shouting. Everybody's shouting.
And that's what's so crazy. This is not necessary. It's not the way if you want to consider them law enforcement, this is not the way they could calmly do this. This woman is clearly not a threat. And that's what kills me about so much of what they're doing. So you have to think, okay, is this performative? Do they want us to see the cruelty? They
want escalation. And
they want us to be afraid.
They're recruiting on.
As a teacher, who else on here has been a teacher? Because I know that y'all know that they've talked about de-escalation techniques.
The teacher's aid count.
We were taught to de-escalate.
And they're doing the opposite. They're literally doing the opposite of what we've always been taught when you're interacting, especially with somebody who's confused or scared or upset, and like what you do to try to mitigate that. Their techniques are the opposite, which to me says that they're being trained to escalate things.
Yes.
I know a lot of people say it's because they have bounty and if they can just grab someone and take someone in, but there are ways to do that even with less force and less chaos than this. So to me, it really does look like they're trying to push for that Insurrection Act. They want a justification for that. And the only way to do that is to make it look like everyone, like the citizens are the problem. And how do they do that? They kidnap innocent people. They shoot innocent people. They hurt people on camera in front of us. And then people rise up and say, we won't take this. And then Trump says, oh, well, now we have to like throw out the Insurrection Act because y'all can't just be quiet.
And
Because
you
we're
guys, in a lot of
responding
these situations, they have little press gentlemen that are filming all of it, right? So
Greg
they're creating
Covino's
their
out
own
there with his
propaganda.
press trying
Oh,
to.
this one just really upset me.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
This one upset me because it looks exactly like the infamous picture from the 70s in Argentina, where they show during the fascist regime, during the dirty war, a man being killed just like that. And I sent it to both you, Chris, and also to Casey. That's an infamous picture. And now it's happening here.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, what's really scary about all of this is that no one is safe. They're arresting people on the New York City Council, or staffers from the New York City Council. They're pushing people from the Minneapolis City Council. No one is safe. And they are untrained, 47 days of training, most of them. And they're getting paid a lot of money to do that.
We're going to get into that, but listen to this, because we're talking about we're going door to door.
Immigrants out of the country that came here illegally, that's going to bring prices down.
I mentioned this last week, but this is the day before the murder.
Are we getting these illegals out fast enough?
We always want to get them out faster. A lot of the ICE agents that we have hired in the past 6 months, they're not even done with training. So all of the big investments that we've made in border security, what we've done is actually gotten 2.5 million illegal aliens out without any of the really big marquee things that we've been working on. That was just simple willpower and the President of the United States coming in and saying, this is done. I think we're going to see those deportation numbers ramp up as we get more and more people online, working for ICE, going door to door and making sure that
Okay, so door to door. Now watch this. This upset me. First off, again, completely unnecessary. But then I'm getting to something here.
Not legal.
So she said they took her husband. And the thing is, they didn't even have a proper warrant. They had they did not have a judicial warrant, which I am having trouble loading that.
And they had guns pointed at her, fully loaded with children in the house. And she was asking them for a judicial warrant and they didn't care. They just went in anyway. And that is complete lawlessness. People don't believe it. I was talking to one of my neighbors who's Hispanic and I was explaining what's happening. And he just like, no, but there's due process and there's ways for us to get around this. And I said, they're ignoring the due process.
So everybody that's watching right now, this is on the left is a sample of a judicial warrant, and see these fields at the top. And then see the signature at the bottom. It has to be a signed judicial warrant. And then this is a DHS warrant, which they can also sign. But see this field at the top? If you look at her warrant, and this is the best screenshot I could get, it does not have these fields. It is not signed by a judge. So not only did they have a battering ram to attack this woman's home, and then they took her husband, they didn't even have the proper warrant. And so you're right. You do not have to answer the door unless they have a judicial warrant, and they can show it through the window. They can slide it under your door, and everyone should know the difference between because they are using these DHS warrants. They're not
called administrative warrants.
And they also know that the average person isn't going to know the difference, and they know that.
Right. And that's why I'm saying this. Hopefully people can spread the word.
This is really important. Because
this family didn't even get the opportunity because they came in with a battering ram.
But there's like, so the people, the ICE agents that maybe are not ready to storm your house, that video on TikTok, we talked about it last week, but the couple that the DoorDash worker ran into their house to try to avoid ICE, they called the local law enforcement, and they're like, I don't know what to do, because like they're here and they don't have a warrant. And the law enforcement was giving them bad advice, because I don't know if they just didn't know. I don't know the reason. I'm just saying, like, they weren't saying the right thing. So you have a couple of problems here. You have to have your local police knowing the law and knowing what their responsibility is, and sometimes they don't, or they don't want to deal with it, or whatever. Then you have the people who don't care, like in this situation where they just are gonna go take you anyway. So there's and then, like, just want to point out, because we keep talking about they're not that trained, the Jonathan Ross ICE agent that shot Renee Good had 10 years of training. So right. I think that this is really just a directive, like I said before, coming from on high. I don't think that this administration is respectful of the law, or really, quite honestly, cares about it. If it's not serving their agenda, they're willing to break it. And actually, they probably feel like that's going to empower people to stand up against them, which will justify the Insurrection Act. So I just think that people need to understand this isn't going to stop. They are eventually it's going to affect you personally, or someone that you know personally. It's not just people who are immigrants. It's not just people who live in cities or in areas where there are protests. This is going to touch you and your family at some point. And it would be super cool if everybody could stand up now and start speaking out against that, as opposed to a year from now when it is directly impacting you.
And also, I just want to say that there's another thing that we're kind of like, a lot of people are glossing over. And that is, he said, 2.5 million people have self-deported, which is bullshit. He has no way of knowing how many people have self-deported. But that's another part of their goal. And that's another part of these videos, of this video campaign, because there are people that are so scared. Like I told you, one of my neighbors, her gardener was picked up by ICE, and her housekeeper said that she was self-deporting, that she was leaving because she's too afraid for her family, does not want to go into one of these detention hellholes where people are being fed rocks and worms and moldy food and bad drinking water, and sewage is spilling onto the floor right where they sleep, because the toilets are in the same place where they sleep, and the mats are this thick, and the only blankets they have are Mylar blankets. They don't want to deal with that. And so they're intentionally creating this cruel and terrifying scenario so that people leave. And it's cheaper if people leave themselves. And so that's another part of it too. But it can and will affect everyone. I think I mentioned last week also that one of my work friends, who I just went out to lunch with last week, her uncle was picked up by ICE, and they haven't been able to find him. He's lost in the system. And that's what we mean by disappearing people. You can't find him. And unless you have the A number, you can't get any information. And if they call you and you're not home and they miss the call, that might be their one call. People aren't being read their rights. People aren't being read their rights in the United States of America. We need to start talking about freedom. We need to start talking, if your neighbors don't care about the human rights aspect of it, the safety aspect of it, the fact that, you know, people are being ripped away from their homes and all of their possessions, and they're stealing their possessions too, then maybe they'll care about freedom. Because our country, when the founders formed our country, part of the reason was and our Bill of Rights, part of the reason why those were written were exactly these type of scenarios where the British soldiers were coming into people's homes and they were making people just keep them in their homes without any kind of compensation. And they were seizing their property, seizing their assets. They had no privacy. That's why we get a lot of the rights from the Bill of Rights. They were not letting people assemble or protest peaceably. We need to make sure that everybody knows our civil rights and knows our rights.
That is Minnesota. Following the fatal shooting in Minneapolis, multiple state officials say it feels like their community is under siege by their own federal government.
So these are citizens.
I'm just
my
nauseous.
understanding. These are American citizens.
Hey, I'm not resisting. I'm not resisting. I'm not resisting. This is how you spend your life? Hey, can somebody grab my phone? Being a cheap JV Gestapo. I got your phone.
So the other thing is, if this happens to you, it is very smart to yell your name, and because hopefully people are video recording, and what's happening is people are disappearing. They don't know where they're being taken. They don't know what's happening at the scene. So I think it's important to yell your name so that your family at least knows you were taken instead of just disappeared.
What you want? I got you. Who do you need us to contact? Hey, my girlfriend's right behind you. I'm going to Victor 3. That's what they said. Victor 3. You know. Give him a good contact once you get him up. Give him a good. All right, we're done. Pick up the deck. Pick up the deck. Back up, you guys.
And by the way, when family come to pick up their family or see their family or bring lawyers, they're lying and they're saying they're not here.
Sorry, this is another reason not to go to Target because apparently they keep letting ICE in. So just, I mean, for those of you that were still going to Target, maybe this is another reason not to go.
We don't shop at Target anymore, but I'm glad you said that. I think Target, Home Depot, any establishment, this is private property. ICE does not have the right to come in and snatch your shoppers, your employees. And if you're allowing that to happen, why should we spend our dollars?
You guys have everything you need. You have the warrant. You have everything to be taking him right now. Both of them. Where is the paperwork? Where is the paperwork?
Manny, what are we doing?
And God bless
that's
these
not even
people
a Target employee, right? That's a citizen. That's not even a Target employee.
Yeah, and she's a citizen. And God bless these people that are yelling like, "Where's your warrant? Where's your warrant?" I mean, like, this should not be easy for these officers, these ICE agents.
These were
or whatever.
teenagers that they took. Teenagers.
This is where you do need to really insert yourself because now they are on private property. They're not on public land. So if they attack you at a Target, guess who you get to sue? Also Target.
And
so
one of those kids they abused. I mean, he was bleeding.
Right.
And they dumped him at a Walmart.
I'm just saying, I understand people are scared and I know they don't want to get involved, but when they're coming into private stores, like that's when you're going to have the most protection against this because they know that, but they're just counting on the fact that people are scared enough not to stop them.
You do have to be careful because there's a couple things that you should know about legally that I learned about in a video. One is that you can get charged with obstruction.
Yes.
If you try to hide someone, if you invite them in, if you're like that, like not showing them, but letting them, you don't have to let people in and you don't have to say a word. And if they ask you, do you know where this person is? Or is this person hiding in here? Don't say a word because you cannot lie either. So make
legally,
sure
you cannot invite someone into your property to hide. That's the law. If they run in, you don't have to. You could let them stay, but you don't have to answer to
Close
ICE.
the curtain. Don't
agents.
talk to them. Like, don't engage with them. They
Don't
don't
say a
have a
word.
right unless they have a warrant to come in. Now, they might storm in, and that's true because these people aren't following the law sometimes. But if you engage with them, like you're opening yourself up to maybe potentially being charged because you're communicating with them. Just don't. It's like always what lawyers say. Just stop talking. Just stop talking. Don't talk unless you're being taken away. Then say your name and where you're going. That's the only time.
So did you guys hear about this?
Out with like a whole bunch of older people, and they're just saying, "Shut the fuck up." I just love that video.
So true, though.
So this kid, they snatched. I believe he was undocumented, but he was brought here when he was, too young to know anything. They abused him. And then this part got me. They sold his phone. I saw what is happening here? They sold his cell phone. And this is the other thing. I'm hearing that when they abduct you, they are turning your phone to airplane mode, because you don't have to, when you have your phone, you don't have to actually have Face ID. There's a way to disable that. If you're going to a protest, I would disable that, because they are disabling, they're putting it on airplane mode. So your family cannot track you. No one can track you. Nobody knows where you're at.
And your fingerprint too.
Take
that off as well.
Yeah, if you have that kind of phone, I don't have that kind of phone. But I thought that was crazy. This is another thing. So they had a meeting. They had to have a meeting. This was after Renee was murdered. And they had to remind ICE agents that just because you're insulted does not give you the right to be aggressive or to be abusive. And this was leaked. This is insane to me. This is crazy to me. This shows that they know they're fucking up. So all of this stuff is just, bullshit when they're like, oh, total immunity and all this other stuff. They know they're fucking up.
They only got immunity as long as Donald Trump's protecting them, because they don't have legal immunity. Like, there's no such, that doesn't exist. That's a lie. So this administration is willing to overlook them breaking law because that's what they want. That's their agenda. But as soon as someone else gets in, either from a different party or even your own party, if it's some sort of I don't know, if it doesn't serve their interests anymore, you're going to go to jail, or I don't know what else is going to happen, but there's going to be consequences for people. This is not immunity for all, for everyone, forever. The ICE people, the people working for ICE that have been promised $50,000 or whatever the case is, to join, at this point, you have to know, your immunity is not permanent. It doesn't really exist. It's just because you have a president that's protecting you right now. And it doesn't matter if later you say, well, he told me so. He told me to do it.
Right.
Have you guys seen the video of they were knocking on doors, going door to door, and they got to someone's house, and the gentleman came to the door and said, I'm not letting you in. I'm not, and he says to the ICE agent, I have a right, if you enter my home, I have a right to exercise my Second Amendment rights.
Shoot.
They turned around and went the other way.
Yeah.
So, I thought that was really interesting.
And that's my concern when we see them, because I know they were near, my parents live in Orlando, and down the way from Orlando is Kissimmee. And Kissimmee has high populations of people from Puerto Rico and South America. And they were in hotels along that corridor of, Disney and like around that area, right? Where there's a lot of hotels and service workers that work at the parks like Universal, SeaWorld, Disney World, all the parks. And Florida is a stand your ground state. They're real friendly. Most people have weapons. Almost every single member of my family that lives there has concealed carry permits and the whole thing. So I quite wonder what's going to happen, because remember, a lot of these times they're not identifying who they are. They're just randomly showing up. What if they get the house wrong? We're acting as if these people are professionals, and we know they're not. We know they're not trained. We know that we've seen them make mistakes. And instead of showing up, trying to de-escalate, they're trying to escalate. They're coming with weapons. They're going to show up to a house that's not the right house, and people aren't going to know what's going on. And they're going to shoot first, and they're going to have the legal right to do that. And it's going to set off some sort of a war. So I'm concerned, because I don't know. I'm in a place like Florida where it's pretty lawless feeling, like in terms of guns. People are very comfortable with them there. I don't know.
I've got the impression that they're just practicing, that during elections, people will not be safe. I just
I just want to say
I
something
don't
really
feel
quick.
safe. You know,
I understand that, but let's not say that because it's a kind of a form of voter suppression. I mean, I hope that doesn't happen. It's a possibility. There's always a possibility, but our elections have always been safe in the past, and we've been winning a lot of elections. So let's just hope and pray it doesn't happen.
Do you guys know anything about this? Amy Klobuchar's account was suspended. I just saw this.
No.
Which one?
I don't know.
Why?
Is it Instagram? Okay, hold on. Let me look.
Yeah, it's X.
Oh, it's X. Okay.
And Adam Kinzinger says, "Have no fear. At least Nick Fuentes is still up and running on Twitter." So that's what made me think this is legitimate.
I see it on X.
You do?
Oh, maybe not her official one. It's her. No, I see the Amy Klobuchar one.
So maybe it's up and running again.
Yeah, it's up.
Okay.
At least that handle is. I don't know if there's another one but that one is up.
Sorry to interrupt.
No, I feel like it's a lot of people are tuned out right now. Like, we talk about this regularly. People have political fatigue. Even my friends that are like somewhat in the know politically have jumped off their socials and are like, I'm trying actively not to look at my phone. So there's that, which is understandable, and I get it. But it needs to be, we need to be sharing out these clips and having these conversations with people, like I did with my parents. I called my dad. I don't know if y'all saw the video I did. I don't expect you to see my videos. I'm just like, sorry if I'm repeating this, is what I'm saying. That I called my parents to tell them, my dad, happy birthday. And my mom said something about me sounding tired. And I was like, well, I mean, I am. And this is what happens when you see people kidnapping people off the streets and people tell you that you're being hyperbolic about it. And a mom just got shot in the face. This was like right after Renee Good had been killed. And I, had that conversation again with them and was really frank about it. And I was frank about it with everybody that I saw. And if every single person did that, or even like 50% of this country, like, right? Like, even if half this country, when they like roll up to Costco and they're like, how you doing today? I'm pretty bad, because I'm concerned about the fact that ICE is just kidnapping people without warrants and has no regard for the law. If we just did that and people went, whoa, what do you mean? And then you're like, yeah, like, did you see the video about blah, blah, blah? And then you just share that information out. Or if you have a screenshot on your phone and can show them, like, you don't have to know the ins and outs of the law to know that it's wrong. And you know that it's immoral. And you know that it's like, it's not right. And if everybody knew that and were then calling their representatives or posting things online about it, we've seen this administration back down. We have absolutely seen them respond to pressure from the people when they don't like it. So it just has to be done together at the same time. We all have to get mad together. We can't just kind of get mad in waves separately.
Yeah. I keep putting this up, but we haven't really talked about it. Trump is threatening to invoke the Insurrection Act. And my understanding of the Insurrection Act, there actually has to be an invasion. Like, from, you can't just invoke the Insurrection Act. And he's been saying, undocumented immigrants are invading this country, and MAGA has been using that language. So I guess that's how they're setting this up. I personally think he is going to do it. I think he's going to invoke the Insurrection Act probably sooner than later, because he's been wanting.
I think this has been the goal all along.
Yeah, it's the goal. But my question is, now that we're a year in, okay, a year into his presidency, doesn't this mean that you're a shitty leader? Because there are countries under siege. I thought you were deporting them. I thought you were getting all the immigrants out. Now you're telling me they're coming in? That's on you, bro. Like, what? Like, this is like such a reflection of him being a bad president. If he came in the first 2 months and did this, okay, maybe you could make that argument because, this was Biden's America and he did all this. Now it's your America and every single branch belongs to you. So I'm surprised that more people aren't pointing this out. Oh, if you're going to have to if you're going to have to institute the Insurrection Act, aren't you really bad at your job? Like, isn't that really what's happening here? Why aren't we saying that more?
Casey, I think that we really need to make everybody say that, talk about that, really spread that if, God forbid, that happens, which I really hope he doesn't, because there's always the threat. I mean, if you go down that rabbit hole and, you know, a lot of people are going down that rabbit hole, then maybe he's going to completely shut down social media. Maybe he's going to shut down the grid. I mean, we don't know.
Who's on the East Coast? My phone was out yesterday, intermittently. Was it yesterday?
It was yesterday.
Yeah. And it was like, so I went to go pick up. I just want everybody to understand what this was like, because this has never happened to me before. Okay. We got a message earlier in the day saying, hey, FYI, Verizon, AT&T, like it was every single cell phone provider is having service disruptions, and it was nationwide. So I've never seen that before. I've seen intermittent outages in certain regional areas by certain carriers, but we got that message and I was like, oh, that's weird. Like, I haven't had any problems all day. Didn't think anything about it. So I leave to go get my flu shot because I'm late. Sorry, but I got it. And I went to go get it. And I was waiting in line. And all of a sudden, I realize I'm at Walgreens and my service is gone. And I get this SOS bar, right? And I'm like, this is strange and concerning, but whatever. Like, I'm trying to do my thing. And I ask the pharmacist about it. And they're like, you know what? Come to think about it, we haven't gotten any calls. Now, it's supposed to be just affecting mobile carriers, but I don't know how they have their phone set up. And every time I'm at Walgreens pharmacy, I don't know about y'all, the phones are ringing off the hook, and like they're so busy all the time, and there was dead silence, and it was weird. And they're like, oh, maybe something's going on. And so she's like, with this administration, like, I wouldn't doubt it. And so we had a nice conversation about that, and like we talked about it as she was giving me my shot. And then I realized I'm going to be probably late to pick up my kids, like at this point, because there were some issues and we had to go through stuff. And I start to go try to call him, and I realized I can't call him. How would I get a hold of him? How would I tell him to pick up my kids? And I'm like, well, there's no Wi-Fi that I can get on here. Like there was no way for me to use any of my devices. And I was like, man, Nextel users like are really missing that walkie-talkie. But I went and I got them, and I was a couple of minutes late, and it was fine. But when I show up at the school, I asked another parent, and they didn't have service either. And they're like, oh my God, like, yeah, like that.
It was all day.
Really? For
you? I was at the hospital getting a test, and my son has Verizon. I was trying to get a hold of him, and I could not all day. And I'm thinking, oh my God, he's driving my car. He wrecked it and doesn't want to tell me. You know, I mean, but it was kind of a panic thing. It just, yeah.
When you realized at that point that, like, you know, of course I was only a few minutes from home, so obviously I wasn't panicking, but it dawned on me that this is what they're talking about. Like, you are so close to not having that ability to communicate with people and to being cut off, because I couldn't get on social media. Like, I couldn't do anything. There was no way to get a hold of any, except for the people at, like, you know, the stores that I was nearby. Other than that, like, I couldn't reach anybody. And I want people to think about the fact that this is somebody who's talking about taking over an autonomous territory of Greenland that nobody wants him in. And this is somebody that went in and just bombed another country without asking Congress's permission. Like, he clearly isn't reading the laws correctly. And so while we know that he can't be instituting this Insurrection Act and has no cause for it, he clearly doesn't think that. And so people need to be realizing that this isn't just like an idle threat, and that if it were to be instituted, that they would be significantly impacted by it, because just that 30 minutes to an hour that I was impacted by it, it dawned on me that, like, I could be separated from my family and not be able to get in touch with them. Somebody could take me at that point and no one would know. You would have no way of telling anybody.
Can I ask a question going back to the whole Greenland thing? Do you think that Europe has the capability to take out our communication systems and take down our cell ability or cell phone ability?
Does Greenland have the ability?
Europe. Because Europeans are,
I don't know.
NATO.
Lovely Panacea, this comment, I feel like we should have a game plan if and when this happens. 100%, because, and that is something we would like to tackle on a future live. Hopefully have a guest speaker who's more knowledgeable. I was mentioning this before. Get yourself one of those bug-in guides. There's different versions of them. Make sure it is a hard copy, not a audio thing. There's things to do to make your home a fortress. I'm not one of those, conspiracy theorist types, but I bought one. I have it, and it's very clear, concise. If there's the Insurrection Act or martial law, there's certain things you need to do. Like, for example, know what the rules are so that you're not breaking the law and that they can't attack you. So we'll talk about that on a future live. Thanks for that. Thanks for that comment.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
No, I don't know if they have that. To answer Melena's question, I don't know if they have that capability, but I think people need to start realizing that this idea that we are, this beloved nation just because we've spent so much on our military and everybody's going to respect us for that is gone. Like, that notion is gone. We are now like the enemy. We are perceived as the enemy because we are acting like the enemy. And we will not have grace that much longer. And that's an important point. Also, we talked a little bit about this before, but I would like to just say, it bothers me that he keeps talking about NATO and people don't understand what NATO is or our role in it.
Mm-hmm.
And this idea that other countries aren't spending enough to be in NATO. So
that's not how it works.
That's not how it works. I'm like trying to think about how to say this nicely. That's not how it works. Part of the reason that we met the threshold, which is basically meaning that we took a certain percentage of our economy, our money, and we invested it in our military, like in enhancing our military. That's because Reagan and his friends had such a hard on, like Republicans, for the military that we did it anyway, right? We were going to do it anyway. The reason we don't have health insurance and appropriate education in this country is because they took it and put it to the military. All of these other countries instead said, you know what, we're going to take care of our citizens first. We're going to make sure that they have healthcare. We're going to make sure that they have education. So that needs to also be pointed out, that it's not that these other countries aren't like doing their part. It's that they're taking care of their citizens, and the United States is not taking care of its citizens, and they haven't been for a long time. And we should note that these other countries also have immigration systems, like they have ways to deal with it. And you can do that humanely and ethically and legally, and also take care of your citizens and also have a military presence. Our country has put such a significant amount in that they've taken it away from other services that we have. And I think it's worth pointing that out, that Trump isn't making them pay more. He's making them put more into their military because they've been actually taking care of their citizens, and he hasn't.
And aren't we the only country that's ever benefited from NATO?
Well, yeah. Also, if you
9/11, right?
9/11.
Yeah. If he would just shut the fuck up, we wouldn't actually need it. That's the other thing. Like, you could just stop bothering people, stop bombing countries, and then you don't need military to that effect, right?
So a lot of people have been talking for months. I mean, we've been talking about ICE for months before Minneapolis, of course. But like, how will we later prosecute these people that are breaking the law, that are doing these, lawless acts? Well, I think more of this stuff's going to happen, like data leaks with their personal information, because you're like running around wearing masks like you're criminals, and people are not down with this. So this is what's happening.
They are not. I want to remind everybody, this is not a military branch. They are not in service that is required. Right. They're not being forced to do any of this. They are grown-ass adults that chose to do this, many of whom signed up after the effect, but of all of this, they could leave at any time. They have the ability to just leave at any time and decide they don't want to help this president break the law. So just want to point that out.
And they have bare minimum qualifications as a rule, although the officer that shot Renee Good, like you said, had 10 years experience. But as a rule, they have minimum qualifications and they are highly paid. So that's blood money in my opinion.
RICO charges.
So congressional Democrats launch probe into whether January 6th Capitol rioters are now working for ICE. Okay, great start. I think it took a long time. I'm going to give them credit for that. But why stop there? Let's talk about the white supremacy groups. Let's talk about, the 3%ers and that are infiltrating ICE too. We all know this. And it's talked about. This seems, unless there's some fine print somewhere that is also including that this is not this is incomplete in my opinion.
By the way, did you guys see the Laura Jadid article about how she was almost hired by ICE?
Yeah, I was just getting.
It sounds like she was hired by ICE.
Yeah, she was. She almost took the job.
Yeah, I don't know why. I just pushed that onto. She was hired. I was just putting that on the screen, and it's not going. Which is weird, but I do have
recruitment push is
that
so sloppy that the administration effectively
You
has
guys
no
see-
idea who's joining the.
For some reason, I still see the same.
We can hear it. We just can't see it.
Yeah, let me remove that one.
Crazy story.
That is weird. Is this going to happen to me all night here? Hold on. It won't let me remove this. Casey, can you try and remove that one that's on there?
She goes to Texas to that
Hold
big.
on, Milana, 'cause I'm just going to try and fix this. 1 sec.
Okay.
That's So's right. There we go. Okay. So that was the screenshot I was putting in.
Is that the one you want?
Yeah.
Okay.
Agency's ranks. You start out by going to a job expo. What happened there?
I brought a resume that was 100% true. I'm a veteran. I have deployed to Afghanistan. So at first glance, my resume looks pretty good. I went in, I handed over my resume. A woman asked me a few questions about things like my name, date of birth, military service, where I'd like to be stationed. And then that was the interview. It took about 6 minutes.
Your name is unusual, Laura Jadid, and they could Google it. And if they did, they would find articles you wrote. Let's see some of the titles here. Trump's ugly cult of vengeance. You wrote an article about ICE and their extralegal abductions of immigrants. Obviously, it sounds like none of that ever came up.
So a quick Google search of her name, you would have seen all that.
It did not.
That
was the thing. I mean, I left assuming that would be the end of this. I assumed that they would not be passing me on to the next step. I assumed that there would be a cursory glance at who I was that would disqualify me immediately. I missed the tentative job offer that they sent me a few days later on September 3rd. It sank to the bottom of my inbox. That tentative offer letter said that I needed to accept within 48 hours. It sent a bunch of paperwork that I needed to fill out to be considered. I sent absolutely none of it.
You have been tentatively selected for the position below within the Department of Homeland Security, U.S. Customs and Immigration Enforcement. You would think that because you missed the 48-hour window to reply to this, that was the end of it.
A couple weeks after this email arrived in my inbox and I missed it, I got an email telling me that the next step of my ICE hiring process required me to take a drug test, which I did, and I almost certainly failed. Cannabis is illegal in New York State. I had used it 6 days before the test.
Now, did you hear that? She thinks she failed the drug test, but she's still.
And then about 9 days after that, I logged into the hiring portal for the first time to see how my application was going and whether they'd processed that test yet. And to my shock and surprise, I found that according to this ICE hiring portal, I had a final offer from ICE. I had apparently accepted that final offer. And my EOD date, my entry on duty date, was September 30th, 3 days before I checked it.
DHS does dispute your reporting. You know, they told us applicants may receive a tentative selection letter following their initial applications and interview that is not a job offer. This individual was never offered a job at ICE.
The problem is they don't know who they've offered a job to. This is kind of indicative of the problem. It's true that they sent me a tentative offer.
So I edited this down. If this is on the screen longer, that is her official offer. She got a tentative offer and then an official offer.
That's the email that I sent to you for this segment. But that is not all that they did. We don't know who is wearing those masks, carrying those guns in cities across the country. We don't know how many of those people have domestic violence convictions. We don't know if they're guilty of sex crimes or pedophilia. These people who are supervising our detention centers with people who will neither be believed nor missed. And it's a little bit disturbing that the DHS isn't even curious about this. I feel like they should take this seriously. It's just another example of them not caring about anybody's safety at all.
ISIS recruitment push.
So I think that says so much. And
I've been waiting for the ProPublica article because, it's like the one that I did on the militia men. Like, remember the guy, the mole in the militia? I forget his name. Yeah. But you can Google it. And he went in undercover, and he was like one of the top people at one of these far right, like extremist terrorist groups that he worked his way up. And then they wrote a whole article about it. It's fascinating. And so I've been waiting for the ProPublica article for the last year of the mole that's been in ICE, because you just know that they have absolutely no standards and anybody can just walk in off the street. So surely, yeah, the bad guys were there, but I was hoping some good guys were there that were going to come tell us how bad it really is. This is, to me, it's infuriating because it's like everything else that we see where there is irrefutable proof. Like, this woman has evidence from a portal, like that she can show, hey, look, they offered me a job. And they're like, we didn't offer her a job. Like, we can't see it with our own eyes and ears. Like, it's like they keep operating like it's 1956, as if there's no media. We see it in front of the, I get so upset.
Don't believe your lying eyes. Well, here's the thing I'm hoping. So her whole thing was like, I want to show the application process. She was never intending to work for them. I'm hoping there's some great independent investigative journalists that are actually in ICE right now and are going to expose what's happening behind the scenes, because that's what I want to see. If the application is this crazy, this woman says the offer was accepted before she even saw the offer. Like, I mean, it's insane. So that's why I wanted to show that, because that was
I think they're in desperate need of, like, they need bodies, they need people. Like, they're trying to get them into all these cities and they don't have enough people, so they have to lower their standards, and that's what's happening. This is common sense to me that they're having to do this. I'm surprised that other people haven't wondered how they were getting so many people, and also why so many of them looked black and brown. Like, you're like, how are Mexicans supporting this? Well, because they are taking anybody at this point who wants $50,000. And I don't even know how long.
There's a lot of people that cannot refuse that kind of money. It does not excuse it at all, but that is going to speak loudly to a lot of people.
And they do that on purpose because they're trying to show that solidarity and that legitimacy. Like, it helps to legitimize their illegal activities if they're hiring people who look like the people that they're taking away. That's like, oh, they came legally, so it's okay. I don't know has anybody said when they pay them that bonus money, how long they have to work there for? Are there, I'm sure there's okay, thank you.
A year. I think it can't be said enough. This is our tax dollars that is funding this. And so it's in our name.
They won't forgive your student loans, but they'll pay an ICE officer to shoot you in the face.
Yeah.
But they will forgive their student loans. So if you join ICE, you will get your loans forgiven. Yeah. And by the way, she never even signed the acceptance for the background check. So they didn't do a background check on her. And she was really read the entire article, because it's even crazier than what you saw.
You know that they're skirting they're cutting corners like this. And this is what I said before. Curiosity, like, I am so curious to see if we're ever going to be able to get a postmortem on get a forensic accountant in there, because the kind of things that they must be doing in terms of money, like moving things around that have no, oh, let me just Venmo you this, like, to another agency. Like, I just guarantee, like, you have to understand, the reason that the government works so slowly is because it's meant to work so slowly, because the bureaucracy has all of these checks and balances, and that's what slows it down. And somebody like Trump, who doesn't give a shit about any of that, who comes in and is like, I'm just going to fuck it all up. He's like a toddler, just throwing like the castle down. The kind of laws that they're breaking that we don't even know about yet, like the things that they're doing, like, not signing off and giving permission to run a background check or whatever. That seems like not that big of a deal, right? To you, to me, whatever. But legally, that's a problem. And a government just doing that en masse to so many people, Like, God knows what else they're doing. I hope we do know someday.
Did you guys see this? So ICE is spending $8 million on pro-ICE influencers. So this is...
I don't want to hear anything about dark money influencers from the Democrats. I don't want to hear shit about that anymore. I don't want to hear
I'm
it.
just saying, no, but I'm just saying this is what this is why I'm also saying how much of this is for show, the way they're acting. You know, like it's performative.
Yes.
It's crazy performative, but it's performative. They want us to see this.
This is on purpose. This is not and that's, like I said this before, this is part of the challenge I think that we have, and also the Democratic Party has, because there's a lot of people still living in, you know, old school politics and the belief that surely this can't be happening. Like, but if they're showing it to you, they want you to know, and that it is on purpose. There's this idea that they just keep hoping that the Republicans will somehow like stop being bad. They don't want to. This is what they want to do. This is their agenda. They're pretty comfortable because they did publish a whole book about it. Like, they were pretty fine with us knowing. And I think that what they have been counting on, what the Republicans have been counting on, is that the Democrats just don't believe they're going to do it. Like, some of it is just, we talked about this last week, the idea that the Democrats believe, or even people who are Democrats, right? Like the Democratic leaders, but also Democratic voters believe, and Republican voters, that surely someone's going to stop this. Like, surely at some point it won't just get that bad. Like, surely there's a reason that they're pulling people out of cars. Surely there's a reason that they're shooting someone in the face. It's like they're making all these justifications because in their mind, they can't understand how someone or why someone would do this. And I get that. That's because you're a good person and you can't understand why somebody would do this to people who live in a democratic country. But this that he's showing on the screen, gestures wildly, is like evidence that they don't really believe they're living in a democratic country. They believe they're living in an authoritarian regime, and they're going to take everything they can and give it to their billionaire friends and anybody else that's going to keep them in power. So this is just further proof of that. And I think that we have to really get right with the fact that this administration is comfortable pushing the lines well past what's legal, well past what's ethical. And like, I know people don't like drawing the conclusion in Nazi Germany, but I need you to think about it in the terms of how they were doing these monstrous things in these extermination camps while people were just going to the market and buying bread. Like, while you were going to the grocery store doing whatever the hell in your normal life, they were doing these crazy experimentations. And later in the trials, when it all comes out, right? Some people knew, some people didn't, some people suspected, right? But that's when it all comes out. And so we have the benefit of history. So we're saying you should suppose, you should presume, you should know that they are doing all of this performance behind the scenes. They're probably doing some serious fuckery that we don't even know about yet. So you should count on that. I think it's naive to not suppose that they're willing to go even farther in pursuit of their goals and agenda, which is, by the way, not to protect you, not to protect citizens at all.
You know, people cannot believe these horrific abuses because it's so absurd that this could be happening here. So they can't believe that America could do this to people. They can't believe that our own government could hurt people or would hurt people. They can't believe that other people would be willing to do this. And I always
interject here. I think we need to also claim this is white people, because I can't speak, and I'll let Chris weigh in. I can't speak for Black and brown people, but I'm pretty sure Indigenous peoples and Black people will say, yes, this is America. Like, we know, we believe it.
I should say
it's who we are.
Some people cannot.
Yeah, I just want to say, because I do think that it's a lot of white privileged people who are like oblivious to this for that reason.
Right. Like, I was talking to a Latino guy around the corner. He did not want to believe it. Okay. People can't believe it because it just seems so extreme.
And denial.
But I said,
well, a lot of us said this is what was going to happen.
The Holocaust,
a lot of us said that.
Wasn't the Holocaust until it was the Holocaust, right?
That's right.
My family members were killed both in pogroms in Eastern Europe and in the Holocaust. And a lot of people during that time just thought, they just kind of, even Jewish people back then just thought, he's crazy. We don't like him, but, it can't be that bad. It's not going to be that bad. And then they tried to leave and there was no one that would take them. We need to make sure that people understand that authoritarianism and these kind of atrocities could happen anywhere. And we're seeing they're already starting.
I think we
so
do.
It's time to wake up and make sure.
I understand it. I think most people in my circle understand it. And we're seeing, all you have to do is open your eyes. And this has been happening for months. This article here, U.S. border agents intentionally stepped in front of moving vehicles to justify shooting at them. This is from 2016. I didn't see this back then, but this definitely links to, I don't know, you could draw the conclusion here. What happened to Renee Good? And I thought this graphic that someone posted.
I drew that conclusion. You remember I was screaming about it online. I was like, they're telling them to do this. This is on purpose.
Yeah. And I think when MAGA's in your comments or whatever, and she was going to run him over or he felt threatened. Okay, maybe you could make that argument for shot 1. What about 2 and 3?
That's what I keep saying.
So this is a great graphic. And then
Chris, the thing about it is that we're people who pay attention, a lot of attention, but there's a lot of people, and this is particularly true in the Hispanic community because people are so busy working multiple jobs with families, and family is so important in our culture that we don't necessarily pay attention to news. And there's not as much news available in Spanish, for example. And the news that is available is owned by conservative right-wingers. So they're not getting this information. So that's why I said that. There are some people that don't believe it. But yes, people who pay attention, they do care. And they do.
That's on them. I don't give anybody a pass at this point. And I think that, and I'm not saying you are, I'm just saying for me, I was on the phone the other night with a friend she didn't quite come from that perspective. I don't know this is happening, but maybe this is even worse. She was basically saying, I don't want to, this is so heavy and it's just going to affect my whole outlook on life. And I'm like, you know what? I don't have that luxury. They're snatching people. They are being cruel. They're being, whatever. I can't unsee this. And I prefer that, even though it sucks. We have to know about this. I'm going to speak for myself. I've been spreading the word on ICE since they came into Los Angeles, and actually started the first raids here. I want to lead into this though.
And I've told
you can see the dark colored SUV driven by Renee Nicole Good. That's on the right there in the back. The surveillance video taken by a home nearby. Agents can be seen milling about near the vehicle, then converging on it. And then you see right there the SUV begins to move, and that's when the shots are fired.
And that's a slow motion version of it. I slowed that down. We can skip through that though. Y'all know what happened.
3 minutes. The reason for that is unclear. Trump administration officials said Good was trying to run over one of the officers who shot her, they say, in self-defense. But state and local officials dispute that, and many of the eyewitnesses who spoke to CNN say it looked like she was trying to get away.
The man who shot her had been on the driver's side previously, and the man pulling on the door was obviously on the driver's side. She turned her wheel, she backed up and turned her wheels away from them to drive down the road. She was perpendicular, backed up, and drove like that.
The agent who fired the shots walks up to the vehicle, then walks away, telling other agents to call 911. As I said, Homeland Security.
But wait, hold on. This officer's the officer that the president said he was surprised he stayed alive.
Right.
And he's probably in the hospital right now. He doesn't look to be fine. He doesn't look as if he's...
That's the guy with internal bleeding.
I was going to say, look at all that internal bleeding.
Internal bleeding. So it's I think we all have common sense here. That is just not adding
up. This is what I mean. We have video footage. That man was clearly fine. And
so there's another
that car.
There's another. There's another video that was just posted earlier today of ICE trying to take somebody out of the car. It was a girl, I believe, a woman. I think she was a special ed teacher. That might have come out last night. I saw it today. And there were witnesses. The ICE agent was saying, she rammed us, she hit us, she blocked us, she obstructed us. And there were folks on the side saying, no, we saw the whole thing and we have it on video. You ran into her. So, you know, this is really, I mean, they're
lying every chance they get.
They lie and they do it straight to somebody who just watched it happen, right? So everything is so calculated, you guys.
And that's the problem, is they're like
3 days
55 steps ahead. And the Democrats are still in a place where, like, you know, for instance, the screenshot that you showed earlier, talking about the there might be, like, there's a lot of January 6ers that are working for ICE. This is something that should have been anticipated when he pardoned them, right? Like, he pardoned them en masse. Like, where are they going? Probably to work for his administration in some capacity. That somebody should have been, like, anticipating this kind of thing.
There were people that said stuff like that. I mean,
and I know, but I don't see the Democrat. So this is my other thing, is like, what you're doing behind closed doors needs to have payoff in the public. So even if people were discussing that, number one, they didn't do it for people like us to see, like, enough. Okay. Cause I'm in this all the time. And if I can't remember anybody that was talking about that, you didn't do it well enough. And then two, that, like, if you are trying to do stuff secretively to, like, get ahead of stuff and for it to be strategic, then at some point we need to see that payoff. And there hasn't been that payoff from the Democrats, like, on, like, at all. They're always just trying to chase, you know, and catch up. And so to me, like, I think we need to be honest about the fact that you either have to decide we're going to empower the people, like those Democratic leaders, and we need to push them and say, hey, we're going to vote for you, but you have to do this, like, or we're going to have to agree that when midterms come, we have to make some major changes, because we can't keep going forward like this and hoping that they're going to start making these connections and holding these people accountable when we as residents and citizens are standing by and watching it happen on video. Like, well, they're like, no, that never happened, but we're seeing it happen.
And this is how shady this shit is. This was like a few days ago when I heard he had a GoFundMe. I checked it, and it was the goal was 300,000, and he had raised 100, or they had raised 180,000. The next day, so it went up to 348 raised. They changed the goal to 500,000. Okay, and they originally had said it was for his legal defense, which is, you cannot do GoFundMe for legal defense of crimes, and now it's 500,000. Or maybe more. This was yesterday. Maybe it's more, 550, but maybe it's more than that.
Well, you know, internal bleeding costs a lot.
What?
Internal bleeding costs a lot.
Yeah, I mean, bullshit.
Most expensive bruise in the history of bruises.
It's so this guy, I don't know, it's just crazy.
That is, to me, like, one of the greatest injustices in this is that, like, everything about it screams guilty. The way that he fled the scene so quickly, the way that he went underground into hiding, and the way they circled the wagons, and everybody watching is still believing the lies. And it's hard, because you know what a battle it's going to be to try to bring these people on board with the right side of history. Like, right. Like, and
well, for folks watching, you can go to GoFundMe and report that account.
Oh, yes.
There's a section. So, like, I encourage everyone to do that.
It was reported, and they changed the language of the fundraiser.
Oh, you're kidding me.
Yeah, it doesn't say for legal defense anymore. They changed it. And in fact, on this,
what about for misinformation? Because that's not.
I don't. Yeah, supposedly GoFundMe is looking into this, but for now, unless it changed today, it's still up.
I mean, I think that we should actually target GoFundMe. This is like Kyle Rittenhouse again. And
Yes.
it's like this guy's going to end up on the right wing, talk show circuit.
For sure.
Absolutely.
It's outrageous.
He's sitting
It's
right next
outrageous.
to Dan Bongino. Yeah, they'll be co-hosting.
And we've seen them pull down campaigns before. Like, remember the woman that called,
I think they were close on this one.
Yeah.
And also the person, let me see if it's in the other shot. The person that actually is, I can't see.
The beneficiary.
Clyde
Emmons.
Emmons. He has white supremacy ties. So
of course he does.
Of course he does.
Yeah. So this person, Clyde Emmons, I guess his name is, he's a shit show too.
They're all in it together. And this is like, again, I implore and plead you all to start talking to your friends, because there are Republicans who are Republican in name only. The Republican people who were taught, like their parents were big fans of Reagan or whatever, and they believe that Republicans are less government and better for the economy, which I think, again, this president is single-handedly refuting very effectively. But I need you all to have these conversations, because there's a group of Republicans that they want this. Like, they are white supremacists. And we talked about it last week about how white supremacy, Christian nationalism is all tied up in a nice little bow, and it's been historically a part of this country. And until we defeat that, it's going to keep happening, right? Like, until we do what they did in Nazi Germany afterwards, and we have trials and we have accountability, it's going to keep happening. But in the meantime, having these conversations with people and saying, you can separate from this party. You can separate from this party and not be in support of this, because the people who are the Clyde Emmons, the people who want this because they believe these people should die. And there are people who still are voting for Republicans, but I know they don't believe that. Like, there are people voting for Republicans that don't want to kill immigrants, that don't want to kill Black people. But at this point, if you don't separate from the party, you are that party. So you need to have those conversations with people. Now is the time. I mean, I personally think it was a long time ago, but now especially it's the time to step back and say, I am not in support of this, because you're going to be lumped in with people like Clyde Emmons, who are actively, like, they want to shoot people like Renee Good. She was a part of the LGBTQ community. And I said this, I'm like, I don't really know, but I think it's a hate crime. They're never going to use that. And actually, it's funny, because my husband was like, it might actually be worse if he did it while he was, like, as a part of his job in the federal government. That actually might be an even worse crime than a hate crime if they were actually following the law, I'm saying.
It's the time, like what you're saying, it's a time to be brave and courageous. Sometimes it takes courage to talk to people about it, because you're afraid, is this going to ruin my relationship? But we're talking about the future of your children and your grandchildren and your great-grandchildren here. If this country turns into Hitler, the United States, Trump, United States, Nazi United States, and it's because you didn't say something to someone, are you going to be okay with that? I mean, be brave. Talk to the people at the supermarket, at the bank, at the post office. Talk to people. You weren't using Facebook for politics. That was 2016. We're in 2026 now, and we're about to lose our country to fascists who have no qualms about killing innocent people. It's time to speak up. And when you think of all the people who sacrificed for our country, from the founding fathers to the civil rights leaders, today is the actual birthday of Martin Luther King Jr. And what they sacrificed for us to have the rights that we do, to have the freedoms that we do, it's your turn. And if you are silent, in my book, you are complicit. There's no space for cowardice anymore. There's no room for that. We need everyone to be heroes. And every time that you say something to someone, you just never know. That person could end up being the next Cesar Chavez, the next MLK Jr. There probably is not going to be the next MLK Jr. But you just never know. That person that you could change the world with that conversation. You really could. So don't be shy. Don't be afraid.
All the time. And this is why I say it's not just the people closest to you, because like all the people in my inner circle feel the same way as me. It's the people that you're acquaintances with. It's the people that you might meet in car line, like pickup line, like maybe you're waiting outside the school. You don't know them that well, but you know them enough to be like, hey, like, how's it going? Like, whatever. Those are the conversations that you have. And I say this, you don't have to know everything. You just have to be authentic about what you feel and say it from that point of view of like, I am so uncomfortable with this and it makes me so upset because this isn't the country that I want to be a part of. Like, that is valid. Like, people are being killed. That to me seems not to be a very controversial take. And I have a friend, I told you guys this before, on Facebook, who's been doing this for the whole month. It's been like, I don't know, 30 plus days now. And every day she comes and she makes a statement and she's like, I think we can find common ground here. And it's like, what's the common ground? And she'll look at something like this. Like, I think that we all agree that we don't want our government hurting people in the street. And like, she'll phrase it in such a way that it is like very neutral, and everyone's like, yeah, absolutely, that's like true. And so she keeps working and finding these common ground moments to bring people in, and uses like links and articles. And I just think it's a really brilliant way to do it, because she only does it, it's not public, her Facebook page isn't public, it's just for her friends, right? And so there aren't like so many people that are like super MAGA or whatever, because she's not really comfortable making it public, and that's fine. Like, you don't have to be like us and be on social media fighting with like trolls and like all these people. You can just go back to, you know, your neighborhood PTA meeting or your church or like the store, you know, like just having conversations with strangers even. You'd be surprised how impactful it can be. Like Melina said, you can really reach people. And even if they don't say anything to you, they may go back home and Google it. They may go back and research it. They may talk to somebody that you never know about. It's just if everybody said something, we wouldn't be here right now. And that's the truth. So it doesn't take a lot. You don't have to know everything. And there's different ways to do it, but you've got to do it. It's where somebody said too online today, I thought it was really an interesting thing. They said, if you have a friend that is very against this administration, like they're very like progressive, or, you know, like they're just really very much opposed to this, and they've never talked to you about it, they don't think you're a safe person. And that's also something to be thinking about as well, because like if there are people who are opposed to this and they're not talking to you about it, then they don't think that you're a safe ally. And that's something to investigate on your own as well. Because if you're so apolitical that you're not ready to talk about this kind of stuff, like this is not normal politics.
As a woman and somebody who has a lot of friends in the LGBTQ community, my point right now, I'm not saying I'm out here, you know, hating on everybody, and I'm not saying do that, but I can say that if you are someone in my circle who is supporting this in any way whatsoever, you are not a safe person to me or my friends. I don't want you around at all. You're not safe. And to Melina's point earlier, you know, at what point do these things start to translate into neighbors calling on neighbors, you know, businesses that are competing with them, et cetera, things of that nature. So if they're okay with this, they're okay with a lot of things, right?
Agreed.
So it's scary. And, you know, I shout out to the lesbian community specifically. I'm like heartbroken just knowing what happened. I feel like that man had a switch go off.
He saw it.
He understood in that moment that woman was a lesbian, and somehow I feel like he thought he had permission.
Well, and then what
I
he said
think
after,
the tell was when he said fucking bitch at the end.
Yeah, that's it.
He had no remorse at all. And when he walked away
he
from the
said
scene, he was completely unbothered.
They released that, and they were fine with that staying in, and that should tell you something. Because they could have cut it off before that, but they released the whole clip, and that included the part of him calling her a fucking bitch. And the reason that they did that is because there are a bunch of men that feel exactly the same way, and they knew exactly who they were talking to with that. But what I think that they underestimated were the number of women who have been victims to violence, to emotional abuse, that have experienced that exact terminology, that exact phrasing in that exact way. And they came on the internet and they
That
shared
tone,
their stories last week.
tone. Yep.
And you know, and I've heard it, and I think most women have.
I heard it.
So this is me talking to women right now specifically, and what I have said the last week, which is like, we've all experienced it, so we know. And this is the thing that should unify all of us, because we are not safe. We haven't been safe, but now we're even less safe because our government's actively targeting us, especially. So because we're just a part of the people in the Republican Party, especially like the Carolyn Levitts, for instance, right? They're just playing a role. When you're not useful anymore, they're going to discard you like everybody else, because it's patriarchy, it's the misogyny. Like, the women are not their equals. These people in control and in power, they don't perceive us as equals. They don't believe in that. And so they'll pretend that just to use you in order for you to do what they need. And then when you're not useful anymore, we're going to be the first ones to go. So just.
And frankly, no one is safe. Ask Mike Pence. I mean, they were ready to hang his own vice president.
Said more. That should be discussed more. I don't understand why we just glossed over that moment in history. Like, they were about ready to string that man up from his neck. And then, by the way, he comes out later and he's like, "It wasn't so bad. It wasn't so bad." What? Like, they were gonna
his family. He was afraid for his family's life. He really should have come out during the election against Trump. He really should have.
Chris has talked about this before, about how that there's definitely been some pressure probably behind the scenes that we're not seeing. Like, I think you said this, Chris, where you talked about like their families being threatened or whatever. So I don't know, but I just know that in numbers, in mass, like right now, while everybody's watching this, like, they can't get all of us. They just can't. So if we all did it together, then we could save ourselves. But it's everybody, everybody's thinking like, oh, well, like, I don't want to lose. You're not going to have anything to lose, and if we keip going. So,
and on that note, let's talk about CTA and protesting and that kind of a thing. But first, I want to make this one point. If there's an Insurrection Act, if he declares the Insurrection Act or martial law, I can guarantee you these J6ers, these militia groups are going to be on the streets while we're all trying to follow the rules. We're trying to figure out how to follow this martial law. Yep. So it's going to get much, much worse, and they will get a pass. I just want to share my number one rule for protesting, and I hope everyone remembers this and shares it. Do not do it at night under the cover of darkness. Our video cameras, our video phones rather, our phones are our number one weapon as citizens. That is how we're seeing all this. And if you saw the scene last night, it looked like a war zone, but it was dark. Like, we really couldn't see what was going on. So it's really important that people protest, speak your mind, whatever, but do it in broad daylight, where this stuff can be seen and it's not in secret. The other thing I will say is when we're talking about Minneapolis, Trump is lying. The administration is lying. We were told this earlier, that crime, like Trump is doing this to bring down crime. He said that in DC. He said that in Los Angeles, Chicago, especially Chicago. And these are lies. Crime has already been coming down. It's been coming down in Minneapolis. That is a fact. You can Google it, or, use your chat GPT or whatever the fuck it is. Their crime has been coming down. So this is a lie. And the other
crime I'm seeing is the crimes that they're committing right now.
It's totally lawless. ICE is lawless. And the other thing I want to say is he is also hurting Minneapolis's economy. He did it to DC also. Like, people are staying home. They're not going shopping. So if y'all want to go protest in Minneapolis, do it in the daytime. Book hotels, shop. These are, local shop owners, Jewish people, brown people, Black people that own shops. They're suffering economically. So Trump is doing no good. as far as I can see, in Minneapolis. But I think so. I think.
Can I add one more thing to the protesting rule? There was an article that came out that talked about HC, which is another gas that they're using that's an alternative to tear gas, and it's far more toxic. So do protect yourself. If you do see them bringing out the gas canisters, get yourself as far away as possible. It might not be a bad idea to carry with you a gas mask, a legit good quality gas mask. I don't think in most communities you really have to worry about it, but it's something that you might consider. I usually I don't carry a gas mask, but I always carry goggles. I carry swimming goggles. My dad's got one that covers like your face and your nose and it's like for when you go snorkeling. But it's not a bad idea to make sure you carry water. Milk is not effective and it can cause infection. It's to have water with you in case you get thirsty, in case you have to flush the body. Saline.
Now, I heard milk or milk of magnesia, even in a case like when it's tear gas, is effective. Is that not true?
I think it's effective, but it can cause an eye infection, I read. So just be careful with that. Saline is effective and it's made for your eyes, so that could be better for you.
Also, you guys, baby shampoo is really effective in washing,
and wet wipes. Baby wipes too, also to get any kind of tear. I don't know if you guys saw last weekend in Santa Ana, very close to where I live. A young man, 21-year-old college student, got shot directly point blank in the eye by one of these tear gas pellet guns, lost his eye, lost vision in his eye, permanently blinded in one eye, hole in his eye, shrapnel in his brain, shrapnel 7 millimeters from his carotid artery, and fractured his skull. And this is against policy to directly aim it right in someone's face. That is against policy. And then they dragged him across the campus of that federal building, and he was bleeding so profusely that I'm not going to say whatever that part because it's really gross and graphic in case anybody's sensitive to that.
Really bad.
But very bad. And they laughed and said and joked and teased him and taunted him that he will never see again, and would not call the ambulance for a very long time afterwards. It's horrific. These are the kind of lawless thugs, savages that are working in ICE.
Yeah, and also to point out that if we're looking for call to actions, contacting your members of Congress, even the Republicans, and having your friends and family do it can be impactful, because we need them to understand that overwhelmingly we do not support ICE and we don't want them funding it, especially since they're funding ICE. And AOC made a big point about this, and I forgot to bring the graphic with me, sorry, but she reminded everybody that they're taking your ACA tax credit money, the money that was subsidizing your health care so that it was affordable for your insurance. They're taking that and they're paying ICE with it. They're paying those bonus monies. They're paying them their salaries, their bonus monies, using those funds that were helping us. So everyone has invested interest in this. Like, even if you don't see it as a problem from an ethical standpoint or a moral standpoint, see it from a financial standpoint, because it's costing you money, it's costing you tax money, it's costing you money, subsidize your health insurance. So you need to tell your friends and family, everybody's got a call. Doesn't matter who they are, doesn't matter what side they're on. You need to call, because they get to use the excuse if they haven't heard from you. They get to say, well, I don't, my constituents didn't say that. Like, leave a record.
Does anyone know what's going on with the ACA in the Senate? Because I heard they voted it down yesterday, or I couldn't find any information except for a brief little text from one of the representatives or from a senator.
I was just going to say, if you're in Congress and your voicemail is full, if your voicemail is full, shame on you. Like, you need to clear that shit every day. And I'm hearing a lot of people saying, "Oh, I try to call and it's full," or they don't answer the phone. That is your job. We pay tax dollars for you to have staff, and I just that bugs the
If you
shit
hit
out.
that kind of wall, you need to find an email address, or you need to get pen and paper. And I know this is going old school, but get that pen and paper and put a stamp on that letter, and you send it so that there is record. They have to record that. Now they might not.
Okay.
They're
Also,
supposed to.
just so you know, the calls are counted nationally. And when you call, it not only puts pressure on your congressional representative, but it could also help take off pressure from other Republicans.
Yes.
And the Democrats need to know that we need to hear from them. I called my congressman yesterday saying, I want to hear more from you. You represent probably a bigger Hispanic constituency than just about anyone in the country. And we're not even seeing your face on the cameras. We need to hear from you and know that this is not acceptable to you. But also, just so you know, you can also, in addition to the number that I put in the chat, which is 202-224-3121, you can also, oh, great. You can also Google their district number. So in addition to calling Washington, D.C., most of these congressional representatives have 2 or 3 or even 4 or even more offices, depending on how long they've been there. The new ones usually only have 1. But that's particularly for the Senate. But usually they at least have
several numbers for Mike Johnson, like in my phone. You should save them in your phone. And actually, I put a little emoji icon next to his name, and so I couldn't figure out why every single time I was typing Mike Johnson, the devil came up, and I was like, "Why does it keep happening?" And I forgot. I'd saved it in my contacts. Anyway, the point is, save them in your contacts. So you don't have to keep looking it up. You can save when you go to the page and you find the numbers, put down their district number, like put down their office. Like they have several office like addresses and stuff. If you do it the one time, you'll have it there always, and you'll be able to send emails or snail mail, whatever. And you don't even have to send like a full letter. Find a postcard, get the postcard stamps. They're cheaper. Like, stop the madness. Like just the little note to say you're not in support of this is enough for them to justify speaking out. But they have to feel empowered to do that because in the past they have been punished at the polls. And so they have to feel like they have that support to justify it to their people who pay for their campaigns.
Right. And then also remember, you're not calling a campaign staffer, you're calling their Senate or their House staffers. So you can't really talk too much about the campaign in that respect, but be respectful, because even though you are talking to one of their staffers, sometimes their staffers might just be young people looking for a job. So you don't have to yell at them or anything like that. But they might be in agreement with you. Be specific as to what the issue is. If you're talking about ICE or if you're talking about healthcare, and be very specific as to what your position is, and make sure that you ask them to write down your position. And you can tell them that you want an answer back. You either want an email answer back or you want a phone call back. And my congressman, I was calling for the impeachment of Donald Trump every single day. And I was making my daughter and my husband call too. And so he called me back. He's like, "Oh, okay." And then he told me
write a speech and give it to your friends. Like write it down and give it to your friends and say, just call and say this. Like I would prefer you do what is in your own authentic voice. But if that's not possible, take the speech and call. Like it's better than nothing. It is.
I mean, I do it when I'm with my friends. I ask them to call because they won't know what to say, and I'll tell them what to say. And I've actually even called for my friends on their phones. I'm like, let me do it then, because and right now I'm not above doing that. Because we're looking at something this horrific. And if it takes me calling for my friend, then I'm going to do it, because my friend has a Republican congressman and I have a Democratic congresswoman and I have a Democratic one. So it's more impactful.
And if you feel comfortable, record your call and post it on social media, because it helps other people. Mine never gets seen because I'm usually, I don't know why, but mine never gets seen. But you should do it because somebody might see it and it might help them feel comfortable calling.
You should do it.
Jess Craven is, I don't know if anybody follows her. She's excellent. Yeah. She has a lot of really great scripts. She does it all the time. So she models how to do it. And she's one that you could follow, because she'll also call like the national people. Like, she'll call Mike Johnson
then
and like
you're breaking up for me.
Chuck
Is
Schumer.
she breaking up for anyone else?
Yeah, a little bit.
That aren't okay.
So anyway,
But when-
we're at the 2-hour mark. Go ahead, Melena.
I was just going to say, don't forget to call your local officials, because you can even be more effective there. You can actually talk directly to them, and generally they will call you back. So city council members and state legislators, Google who they are, who your representatives are, and call them too, because you even have more impact in those particular offices.
So on that note, we're going to end the evening. Thanks everybody. It was great. Let's something, I mean, we'll see what happens this week. But I do want to get back to talking about healthcare and our shit show economy. One of the topics of our lives. So thanks everybody. Have a great weekend.
Thanks, Chris. Thanks, Melena.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you guys. You
Thanks,
rock.
Casey,
And
wherever you are.
thank you,
Casey,
Casey.
I
And
think
thank
her
you everybody
computer
for
died.
attending. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. You guys rock too.